The airport was loud in a way that felt permanent. Announcements echoed from the ceiling, rolling suitcases rattled across the polished floor, and hurried conversations blended into a single, restless hum. People moved with purpose here. Business travelers, families in matching outfits, couples heading somewhere exciting. Everyone seemed to know where they belonged. Everyone except Noah Bennett. Noah stood near the boarding gate clutching a worn backpack, its zipper slightly broken, its fabric faded from years of use. He was 17, thin, dark-skinned, with cautious eyes that scanned the room more than necessary. His clothes were clean but clearly old, sneakers with creases, jeans that had been washed too many times, a hoodie that didn't hide how out of place he felt. This was the first time Noah had ever been inside an airport. The ticket in his hand was real. He had checked it 3 times already. A one-way flight, economy class, paid for with savings from odd jobs and a small scholarship that covered transportation to a free aviation summer program across the country. It wasn't luxury, it wasn't comfort, but it was hope. As boarding began, Noah joined the line quietly, standing behind a family discussing seat upgrades and ahead of a man speaking loudly into his phone about investments. Noah said nothing. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to get on the plane. That was when a uniformed airline staff member stepped in front of him. "Sir," the woman said, her voice polite but sharp, "can I see your boarding pass?" Noah handed it over immediately. She studied it longer than necessary. Her eyes flicked from the ticket to his clothes, to his backpack, and back again. "Is this yours?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Noah replied softly. She hesitated. "Where are your parents?" "I'm traveling alone." Another staff member, a white man with a badge clipped neatly to his jacket, leaned in. "There's been an issue with this flight," he said. "We need you to step out of the line." Noah felt heat rise in his chest. "Is there a problem with my ticket?" he asked carefully. The man didn't answer the question. "We've had situations," he said. "Unaccompanied minors, improper documentation. Just come with us." People in line watched. Some stared openly. Some pretended not to see. No one said anything. Noah followed them a few steps away from the gate, heart pounding. After a brief whispered conversation between the staff, the woman turned back to him. "I'm sorry," she said. "We're not going to be able to let you board this flight." Noah's ears rang. "But why?" he asked. She glanced at his bag again. "This airline has policies. You don't appear prepared for this type of travel." Prepared. That word cut deeper than no. "My documents are fine," Noah said, his voice trembling despite his effort. "I worked for this. I need to be on that plane." The man's expression hardened. "Lower your voice," he said. "You're causing a disturbance." A security officer nearby shifted his stance. Noah swallowed. "I'm not causing trouble," he said quietly. "Sir," the woman repeated, "please step away from the gate." And just like that, he was removed. No shouting, no scene, just quiet humiliation. Noah stood off to the side as the rest of the passengers boarded. He watched the plane through the wide window, the aircraft he had dreamed of flying someday, lifting other people toward their futures. His own stayed on the ground. When the gate finally emptied, Noah sat down on a plastic chair and stared at the floor. His hands shook. Not from anger, from resolve forming where embarrassment had been. They hadn't removed him because of paperwork. They had removed him because he looked like someone who didn't belong in the sky. What the airline staff didn't know, what no one in that terminal knew, was that Noah Bennett had already memorized aircraft manuals from the public library, that he spent nights watching cockpit videos on borrowed Wi-Fi, that he dreamed not of comfort, but of control, of sitting at the front of the plane, responsible for everyone behind him. That night, Noah left the airport by bus, holding onto his backpack like a promise. He didn't cry. He didn't complain. He made a decision. One day, he would return to an airport like this, not as a passenger asking for permission, but as the pilot everyone trusted with their lives. And when that day came, the sky would not question whether he belonged. The bus ride home took almost 6 hours. Noah Bennett sat by the window, his backpack pressed against his chest, watching city lights fade into dark stretches of highway. The airport humiliation replayed in his mind again and again, not as anger, but as a sharp, burning clarity. Every look, every pause, every assumption made without a single question. When he finally stepped off the bus near his neighborhood, it was already late. Streetlights flickered. The air smelled of asphalt and old rain. Noah walked the remaining blocks home in silence, past houses that looked tired in the same way people did. Inside their small apartment, his mother was waiting at the kitchen table. She didn't ask how the trip went. She saw it in his face. "They didn't let you fly," she said quietly. Noah nodded. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know how much this meant to you." "So do I," Noah replied. The next morning, reality arrived without mercy. The aviation program called to say they had given his spot to someone else. The scholarship didn't carry over. The next opportunity was uncertain. That word followed Noah everywhere. Uncertain income, uncertain future, uncertain dreams. He took every job he could find, stocking shelves at night, cleaning offices before dawn, fixing bikes, carrying groceries, tutoring younger kids in math for cash. Every dollar went into a small envelope hidden beneath his mattress. Flight fund. Some nights, exhaustion pressed so heavily on him that he fell asleep fully dressed. But even then, aviation manuals lay open beside him. He studied weather systems, navigation charts, emergency procedures. He learned the language of the sky while the world assumed he would never leave the ground. At school, teachers noticed his fatigue. "College applications matter too, Noah," one counselor said gently. "I know," he replied, "but flying matters more." Friends teased him kindly. "You still on that pilot thing?" someone joked. Noah smiled. "Always." Years passed. Noah graduated, then worked, then saved. Progress came in inches, not leaps. He enrolled in a small, barely known flight school hours away, not because it was prestigious, but because it was affordable. The first time he touched the controls of a training aircraft, his hands shook. Not from fear, from recognition. This was where he belonged. Flight training was relentless, expensive, unforgiving. There were moments when instructors doubted him. "Flying's not just passion," one said, "it's discipline." Noah nodded. "I know." What they didn't know was that discipline had been forged long before he ever stepped onto a runway. There were setbacks, failed check rides, delayed certifications, weeks where money ran out, and Noah slept in his car between lessons. Each failure felt heavy, but none felt final. Because he remembered the gate. The staff member's eyes scanning his clothes instead of his ticket. The word prepared. Years later, that memory still fueled him. By his mid-20s, Noah had logged more hours than some students who started with family money and connections. He didn't talk much, he flew clean, precise, calm. Instructors began recommending him quietly. "This kid's solid," one said. "Doesn't panic," another noted. Noah listened, but he never forgot where he started. One evening, after a long solo flight, he sat alone on the tarmac watching planes land against the sunset. The roar of engines vibrated through him, familiar now, comforting. He knew the road ahead was still long, but he also knew this. The sky never asked where he came from. It only asked whether he was ready. And Noah Bennett was preparing, not just to fly, but to return one day to the place that had once told him he didn't belong. Not to argue, not to explain, but to take his seat in the cockpit, close the door, and lift everyone, including himself, into a future that could no longer deny him. The first time Noah Bennett wore a commercial pilot's uniform, it felt heavier than he expected. Not because of the fabric or the insignia stitched neatly onto the chest, but because of everything it represented. Years of night shifts, missed opportunities, humiliations swallowed quietly, money counted dollar by dollar, hours logged when no one was watching. He stood in front of the mirror of a small apartment near the regional airport, adjusting his tie carefully. The man looking back at him was no longer the nervous teenager clutching a worn backpack. He was taller, broader. His eyes were steady now, focused in a way that came from responsibility rather than fear. Noah had earned his commercial license, then his multi-engine rating, then his airline transport certification. No shortcuts, no favors, just persistence. The airline that hired him wasn't glamorous. Smaller routes, tight schedules, old planes kept alive by discipline and routine. But it was a beginning, and Noah treated it like an honor. On his first day of line training, a senior captain glanced at his logbook and raised an eyebrow. "You've got a lot of hours for someone your age," the captain said. Noah nodded. "I didn't start with much else." The captain studied him for a moment, then smiled. "Well, the sky doesn't care where you started." Those words stayed with Noah. Months passed, then a year. Noah flew through storms, turbulence, late-night approaches, early morning departures. He learned how to calm nervous passengers, how to manage emergencies without letting them feel like emergencies, how to carry dozens of lives with quiet confidence. And slowly, almost without noticing, he began to belong. One afternoon, while reviewing his schedule in the crew room, Noah froze. Route ATL to DEN. Aircraft A320. Operating carrier Meridian Air. The name hit him immediately. Meridian Air, the same airline, the same logo, the same uniforms, the one that had removed him from a boarding line years ago. Noah felt his chest tighten, not with anger, but with something sharper. Recognition. He closed his eyes briefly, then exhaled. This wasn't fate demanding revenge. This was life offering completion. The day of the flight arrived quietly. Noah walked through the terminal wearing his uniform, flight bag in hand. People stepped aside automatically now. Some nodded respectfully, others barely noticed him, in the way professionals often aren't noticed. As he approached the same concourse where it had happened years before, memories surfaced with unsettling clarity. The gate, the glass window, the feeling of being watched and measured. This time, no one stopped him. He passed security with a simple greeting, walked down the jet bridge with purpose, entered the cockpit and took his seat, captain's seat. As pre-boarding began, Noah reviewed his checklists methodically. Systems green, weather stable, fuel verified. Outside, passengers boarded, families, business travelers, teenagers clutching backpacks that looked a lot like the one Noah used to carry. One airline staff member stepped into the cockpit to confirm departure timing. She glanced at Noah, then did a double take. Her expression shifted slightly. Recognition flickered across her face. It was the same woman, older now, same uniform, same badge. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she cleared her throat. "Captain, we're ready when you are." Noah met her eyes calmly. "Thank you," he said. "We'll be pushing back shortly." She nodded and stepped out without another word. No apology, no explanation. None was needed. As the aircraft taxied toward the runway, Noah looked straight ahead. The engines roared to life beneath his hands, powerful, obedient, precise. "Meridian 472, cleared for takeoff," the tower said. Noah pushed the throttles forward. The plane surged ahead, lifting smoothly into the sky. From the cockpit, the city fell away beneath him, terminals, runways, people, past and present shrinking into perspective. Noah didn't smile. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt complete, because the place that once decided he didn't belong had just trusted him with hundreds of lives. And the sky, the only authority that ever truly mattered, had never questioned him at all. The flight was smooth. At cruising altitude, the cabin settled into that familiar calm where conversation softened and engines became a steady, reassuring presence. From the cockpit, Noah Bennett monitored instruments with practiced ease, his movements precise, unhurried. To the passengers behind him, he was just the pilot, one of many they would never remember by name, and that was enough. As the aircraft crossed state lines, Noah thought briefly of the version of himself who once sat on a plastic chair at the airport, staring at the floor while a plane left without him. That memory no longer burned. It had cooled into something else. Perspective. When the plane began its descent, the first officer glanced over. "Nice flying," she said. "Thank you," Noah replied. They landed cleanly, rolling to the gate with professional smoothness. Applause broke out in the cabin, spontaneous, brief, sincere. Noah acknowledged it with a small nod as he completed shutdown procedures. The cockpit door opened. Passengers filed past, some thanking the crew, others already distracted by phones and connections to make. Then a woman paused at the doorway. She was older, well-dressed, carrying a leather bag. She studied Noah's face for a moment longer than most. "My son wants to be a pilot," she said quietly. "He's nervous about flying, about belonging." Noah looked at her gently. "Tell him the sky doesn't ask where you come from," he said, "only how well you're prepared." She smiled and walked on. Later, in the quiet of the empty cockpit, Noah sat alone for a moment. Sunlight streamed through the windshield, illuminating the controls he knew by heart. This was the seat he had imagined for years, not as a symbol of victory, but as a place of responsibility. Before leaving the aircraft, Noah did one last walk-through of the cabin. He stopped near the window where, years ago, he had watched planes leave without him. Outside, another flight was boarding. A teenager stood near the gate, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes wide with anticipation. For a brief second, Noah saw himself again, the same hope, the same uncertainty. This time, he knew something that kid didn't yet. Belonging wasn't granted at the gate, it was earned in the long road after ejection. Noah stepped off the plane and headed toward the crew exit, blending into the flow of professionals moving quietly through the terminal. No one stopped him. No one questioned him. He didn't need recognition. The airport no longer decided his worth. And somewhere above the clouds, untouched by bias or assumption, the sky remained exactly what it had always been, open, indifferent, and fair to anyone willing to reach it. That was the ending Noah wanted. Not applause, not confrontation. Just the simple truth. They once removed a poor teenager because he didn't look like he belonged. And years later, they trusted that same man with everything that mattered most without even realizing it, and that, Noah knew, was justice enough.